Hey guys, and we're back with another episode of Building with You Live, the show where we sit down with folks from DTC brands and build a branded chatbot with them live. I'm your host, Sean, with your co host, Tyler, also the guy who will be building the bots live. Russ, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Russ, the co founder of Freestyle, a baby brand started by parents, for parents with a proprietary BambooTek core that makes its diapers not only 55% more absorbent than the number one brand out there, but also 100% tree free. Russ, would you be able to tell us a little bit about Freestyle's backstory, how you came up with the idea of a BambooTek core, as well as how you juggle life as a co-founder and as a dad?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's so we started Freestyle, or I guess should say we got started on building something like Freestyle 3 years ago. Prior to that, I had been working at a baby care brand called Hello Bello. I was on the founding team there from the very early days before the brand had a name and a launch to through to its launch in Walmart and beyond, and that arguably was one of the fastest growing baby care brands ever launched. And so I saw managing supply chain and business development, what it takes to build a brand in this category, and also saw some opportunities for, I think, approaching the whole category differently. And so when I left that company, I had the good fortune of meeting my co-founder, Mike Constantiner, who's also a dad. And we started putting our heads together around number one, what is the different story that we want to tell about parenting? And I'll start there. I think a lot of baby care brands have, an outdated habit of talking about what it's like to become a parent in very like sort of 1950s terms, right? Like the idea is that you start to have kids and then you move to the suburbs and you get a house with a white picket fence and you put on khakis and you drive a minivan and your days become essentially completely unlike anything that you've very likely done up until that point, right? And that just didn't ring true for me as a dad. It didn't ring true for Mike as a dad, and it didn't feel very authentic to what we expected young parents to actually want out of parenting today. So, just talking about what the experience of becoming a parent differently was a big part of what we wanted to do in anything that we built together. And then the second, kind of major piece of the puzzle was that we kind of became aware of the possibility of building a diaper that did not use trees, which was something that neither one of us as dads really knew that was even a part of trees. I'll show you though. This is our diaper. The major component of the diaper that does the kind of heavy duty lifting, right, is obviously this white pad in the middle. That consists of two major ingredients. There's a fluff pulp that comes from some sort of fiber, and in every other diaper brand in the United States, it comes from wood, or basically, largely trees like pine trees. And then the thing that actually does the absorbing is the super absorbent polymer, which is like this very sort of special ingredient that like is pretty fascinating how much water that it can hold. So the job of the fluff is to spread the moisture around so that it can reach as many different pieces of sap or super absorbent polymer, and then that gives the absorbency of the diaper as a whole. That fluff pulp, coming from trees, that's a very environmentally costly supply chain, right? So as many as 1 billion trees are cut down every year for the diaper market, according to what we've read. So we thought if there was a possibility of doing that in a more sustainable or regenerative way, then that would be a major value add for the category. So that we worked with suppliers around the world to come up with something. We got fortunate to find one that could actually produce a bamboo fluff pulp, and they're the only one that can do this globally. And we put together a deal to be the exclusive brand in the United States selling a fully bamboo fluff pulp diaper. So a bamboo pulp diaper is completely tree free, and that's unlike anything else on the market. And one footnote on that, you might hear of other bamboo brands that talk about themselves as a bamboo diaper. One clarification, they still use tree pulp for the actual center of the diaper. The only part that's bamboo is this outer sheet, which, in our view is not really like a major differentiator. So those two things came together. Mike and I put our heads together around what a brand could look like. We came up with the name Freestyle because we thought that that was a nice concept for, really kind of individualizing and making parenting your own, which we think is a big part of how young parents want to approach, this new life change. And then combined with the supplier, we ultimately named that technology of the BambooTek, as you mentioned. We were able to launch this diaper, and when we performance tested it at independent labs, and these are labs that any diaper company would use to measure the performance of the diaper in terms of its capabilities. As you say, it outperformed the number one plant-based diaper by 55%. In other words, it can hold 55% more moisture than that diaper. It's also 39% better at retaining moisture away from the skin, which is the major cause of diaper rash. And due to that absorptive capacity and moisture retention, it can be used as an overnight diaper. And you'll see, our reviews on our site are outstanding. We have our subscribers are consistently blown away with the capabilities of the diaper relative to other plant-based offerings.
No, it's actually really interesting that you guys decided to go after the diaper category because there are a few obvious giants in the diapers
Right.
industry. For example, Huggies with an estimated revenue of around 20 billion, Pampers with a close second with 19, and Loves with 19 as well. Where do you personally see Freestyle in the next 5 to 10 years, and how would you personally disrupt the category?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much like it's a massive category, right? I think the vast majority of parents discover the convenience of using a disposable diaper relative to a cloth diaper, and that's a very active debate. And we're not trying to. I would never dissuade anyone from using cloth diapers if that's the path they want to choose. But for the majority of parents that do choose disposable, I think it's great to have an option on the market that that you can feel good about. I mean, at a minimum, we are a more regenerative supply chain. We're by no means a perfect sustainability story, and I don't think there is one in the disposable category. But we are 88% biodegradable. We're working hard on, making that 100%. We do offset the use of any plastics, both in the packaging and the diaper itself, as well as, frankly, any personal plastics that we use in the business. So any of our employees, we literally have to count the number of plastic bottles that we use to make sure that we're a true, like, net negative plastic business, which we are. Um, and and then I think 5 to 10 years from now, what we hope to do is grow that section of the overall industry. I don't, remains to be seen whether sustainable and regenerative diaper supply chains become the majority of the market. If they did, obviously, we would stand to become a very big business. But if we could just continue to carve out our niche of parents who really resonate with what we have to say about parenting and this very what we try to be is judgment free about how folks are, how they want to live as parents and the way in which they do it. And so I think if we can just continue to build that community and be authentic with them, then I think we'll have a very good business. And, our hope is that ultimately this becomes a, 9, 10 figure business on its own.
I love it. I love it. So we all know that starting a direct to consumer company is incredibly challenging. However, social media has a knack for over glamorizing the ups as an entrepreneur, but seldom talking about the downs. What would you personally say were some of the challenges that you went through starting this company? And how did you personally overcome these challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree that social media obviously optimizes for the most sensational and, kind of unbelievable storylines about building a business. And so all you read about are the, like overnight successes. That hasn't been true for us, admittedly, and I think that's okay. Like this is a passion project as well as, like a real capitalistic enterprise. And so we're in this for the long haul, and we're gonna get it done correctly, to the best of our abilities. The challenge, of course, is that uh, without heading too far down this path, I do think entrepreneurship in general is a rich person's game, and so having the capital behind you to get started is really difficult. And we are not rich founders, so we had to struggle and scrap together whatever capital we could to get this business off the ground. That's by far the hardest part. D2C is very capital intensive overall business strategy as well. I think a lot of people don't appreciate just how different that is than software, which was my prior background, right? I mean, you can you have virtually zero marginal cost of providing a new product and software once it's built. Whereas in D2C, and any consumer packaged goods, that cost is forever, right? It will always cost you money to build that product. So you really have to be careful in managing cash flows. If you don't have outside investors who are willing to float you in the early days of the business, it can be very hard to get off the ground. And so I think that was, you know, without going too far down that path, I think that's the most challenging part of building a D2C business. And I think it's in particular true for our category, because what's unique about diapers is that your prototypical D2C brand or business is something that any given individual can fulfill out of their closet or the side of their bedroom. A small, value dense product that can be shipped cheaply, where brand can justify an arbitrage effectively in the cost of the product and then the price the consumer will pay, and that the greater that arbitrage, the more ability you have to actually bootstrap a business like that. So you might see things like actually jewelry would be like probably about as value dense as you can think of. Like those businesses can actually do very well. Something that is large, that is lightweight, and that our MOQ for diapers fills like a 40,000 square foot warehouse, right? So it's very like you have a lot of fixed costs just to get this thing off the ground. And then it also is very expensive to ship, because the carriers will charge you based not on the weight of the box but on the size of the box if you cross a certain point. And that is especially true in the diaper category, being a light but very um, sort of like volumetric product. So I think yeah, those are just the things to think about when if you're really trying to approach D2C as a like if you're from like 10,000 feet and you're thinking of, hey, what business should I start? You're very unlikely to end up with diapers, and you're much more likely to end up with something along the lines of high value, super small, super lightweight. I guess yeah, something like jewelry or chips or something. I mean, not that you can launch a chips brand, but like a computer chips, but like something like that would be probably you know you want to find something along those lines.
I guess in tangent with what you mentioned, I'm a little bit curious how you navigated the entire COVID situation. I know that the prices of shipping from A to B really skyrocketed through that period. Like, how did you manage cash flow, and what was your strategy?
Yeah, we in some the truth is we just had to bite the bullet. I mean, there was nothing that anyone could do at that time, and we had so many brands can say this, so we're not alone. But we hopefully one day will laugh about the fact that we like incorporated in March of 2020, which is arguably like the worst time to be thinking about a new like physical goods business, and then that we shipped our first product in I think it was January of 2021, when container prices were something like 10 to 15x what they normally had been. And it was just at the time it was like, well, you got to do what you got to do. And I think that level of perseverance, you got to just believe in your vision, that you have something meaningful to say, and that your brand is an accurate reflection of that message. And for as long as that's true, then the hope is that you can flush those costs through, and eat the margin, and then get on the other side and still have a product that people want to continue to buy, and hopefully then recoup some of those costs down the road, or consider it a sunk cost in building the brand, which is how we approach it today. And we're fortunate to have investors who are kind of amenable to that approach.
And it's interesting because I didn't know that you had a software background, but if you were given the choice to start again today, would you go D2C or would you go software?
Yeah, I think I am yeah, a glutton for punishment, I guess. I really enjoy the physical, like I enjoy seeing have the tangibility. And I think the challenge is I'm not an engineer by training, right? So I don't get that tangible sense with software of like, incremental progress each day, being able to see and touch and feel how the product is changing and evolving. But of course, I get that with physical goods, where we can make a difference in, meaningful product improvement or packaging improvement, or being able to see it on shelf, et cetera. So those things to me are more personally rewarding than which I guess is to say I'm not a pure capitalist, because a pure capitalist certainly would not go back into D2C. The margins are just not there relative to to software.
No, because I really, really enjoy that the brand is built by parents for parents so that you really know the best product is coming out because it's coming from personal experience.
Yeah,
Like it's
no,
not pulled out of your ass. Like,
yeah, no, totally. I mean, our initial samples of diapers were tested on Mike's daughter. Like it's a very real and like a visceral uh, process for us because these are products that our kids use. My kids are a little older and out of diapers, but wipes, shampoos, lotions, which we hope to expand into, like all those things are being tested live with our kids, and so yeah, it's meaningful to us. And I think that's a missing component, frankly, and some other brands. Many of them are they do have parents at the helm, but some of them don't. And then some of those parents have been out of the kind of diaper phase for a long time. And so and this all kind of makes sense when you consider the category as a whole. Again, you have to have a lot of capital to get in. By and large, that's going to skew towards older entrepreneurs who have had the time to accumulate that capital. Um, and then and then when you get into the category, you also have to have existing relationships. I think we were just lucky to have more or less stumbled across the opportunity, largely through some prior experiences, and then through some folks that we got connected with along the way.
no, those are really, really insightful answers. But our last question for the day, given the nature of the business, retention is an incredibly important aspect in maintaining profitability. What are you personally doing to ensure that your parents keep coming back as well as sharing it with their friends and family?
Yeah, we have yeah, a very active collaboration strategy that so what our intention is to diapers are very much the hero SKU. It's the reason for that box to hopefully keep arriving at a new family's house, and hopefully providing them joy through just like the visual presentation of the brand, and then of course the performance of the product, the softness of it. It's exceptionally soft, exceptionally absorbent, etc. And then we try to think as parents of with young kids, like what else would be what else would be delightful, right? So it's effectively a surprise and delight strategy. So we did a collaboration with a DJ, Samantha Duenas, who's amazing, like super. If you haven't seen her Instagram account, look her up and follow her. She's super cool, and she helped us design a bucket hat that's a matching parent and child bucket hat. And is that like a must have for a family? No, but does it help sort of extend this brand story of like, look, this can be fun, this can be cool, this can be it can be hype, right? I mean, this was very much like a limited edition drop that just came, and so that those kind of things we try to do to just keep parents interested in the storyline of freestyle and to continue hopefully pushing the community to think differently about what parenting is and can be. So things that are on the on the horizon for collaborations. We did a limited edition sweatsuit right during it was this kind of last year, but it's a it was a very cool design and again matching parent and kid. We did we're going to do a limited edition like an 8 ball that has sort of funny messages for that you can put on the changing table, the magic 8 ball, and you turn it around, but it's like very particular stories for parents. Hopefully things like baby carriers, just anything that you wouldn't necessarily actually I think there's an emerging opportunity for us in sexual wellness as well because that's a whole part of baby making, and these are just stories that we want to tell about like, hey, let's talk real about what the process is of being a parent, and then let's continually engage parents with products that just uh, deepen their relationship with the brand. And so I don't know that anything in there is particularly novel, I suppose, but that's how we're thinking about retention is continue to surprise and delight, continue to try to be thoughtful about what these parents' needs are outside of your classic SKU mix, which of course we also want to sell, but things like wipes and lotions and diaper rash cream are the obvious ones. What can we do outside of that to be a more interesting brand in the category?
No, really like that it's such a grounded approach and the focus is really on delighting customers because there are some brands that their sole purpose is to extract maximum possible value from the customer, but you are trying to give the customer the maximum possible value. And I really like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think hopefully we have a relationship with these customers that is, 4 or 5 years plus, right? Because if we're lucky enough to capture them on their first kid, maybe they decide to have a second or a third. If they don't, maybe we can at least continue to help with helpful products that are, either for the parents or the kids that help them grow through this phase. And so, yeah, we're far less concerned about immediate margin or profitability on any of these drops, many of which are, um, you know, are not geared towards profitability, but instead it's about creating that value, that engagement. Hopefully, we meet these people in like in person when we have live events, which we're doing, and then building that community so that it becomes sort of like I think the brands we look up to are frankly like more streetwear or hype brands. So like Amy Leondor or Palace Skateboards, things like that. Like we're trying to design a relationship with customers that's like that.
I think that is so, so smart. Like having a solid community is going to be like the key to launching the brand into the stratosphere.
Yeah, that's the hope. And we have some big retail relationships where you'll be able to start to kind of trial the products on shelf at major grocery stores around the country. And so that will be, that's I think how we slowly build those relationships with new parents wherever they shop.
Right. So we're going to be transitioning over to the bot segment of the podcast right now. We've spoken back and forth about lifetime value and retention being incredibly important. And we've actually built an insert card system where upon 5 months of diaper purchases, parents will be entitled to a $10 off any of Freestyle's other products, like the diaper bag or the milestone blanket. Of course, this $10 amount can be messed with. It doesn't really matter if you want to offer a percentage off or if you want to offer a product. And of course, this strategy wouldn't work if the product wasn't already amazing, which Freestyle already is. But the goal here is to give parents an added incentive to keep coming back. With the offering of a discount on the other products, we are also bumping the overall lifetime value of the customer. Parents will be coming in through a dynamic one-time scan QR code so that we are able to track how many purchases they have done so far. And Tyler will essentially be showing you how that looks on the front end first, and then we'll be showing you and explaining how it works on the back end.
Great.
Yeah, so as Sean just kind of briefly glossed over it, basically you can think of these kind of flows essentially like, I'm not sure if you have a pizza joint near you, but basically sometimes they'll have these kind of trays or like a little card, and every time you buy a pizza from them, you'll get a sticker, and after X amount of stickers, you'll get a free box or free pizza. So that's kind of the same concept that we have here, but maybe instead of a free product or a free pizza, you would give them a $10 discount or a X amount discount code off whatever they want to purchase. So essentially they'll come in from a QR code. And I know this is not a QR code, this is a link, but basically the QR code would have to be a unique destination. And I'll go into exactly how that would look like. And once they come in through that destination, it'll be able to scan this little code within that QR code, like this little, these digits right here, right over here. And once they come in from there, you get that code. It verifies that there's a code right here. Then it checks to see, is that a valid code from this check right here? And then it checks to see, has anybody else used that code before? Because then we wouldn't want to reward them with that code that's already been used. So what this looks like from a logics point of view is you have your ref URL right here, so your messenger link, and then it saves a custom value inside this custom field right here. And the way you would kind of make your links is that you have your ref URL here, then you have your two little dashes that separates the ref URL from the code, the unique code that you want. And then this is the unique code right here at the back end. So you can easily, and I even looked into this a long time ago, you can actually have a bulk QR code generator that can just generate a bunch of codes, unique codes, and that's where you would make all your codes. You just upload your CSV file, your kind of spreadsheet, with all the unique codes and all the unique kind of links. And the links itself all lead to the same destination, but they all have a unique identifier at the back end. So that way, when somebody scans it, the bot will know, oh, this is a unique kind of field here. So I hope that part made sense. So like this right here, the value at the back right here gets saved into this custom field. Then it proceeds to this condition block that checks to see, is there a value there? If yes, then it goes down this yes path. If no, then it goes down this no path, which basically gives them an error message. If yes, then it checks to see, is that code valid? So it first clears this custom field right here, and then it goes into this spreadsheet right here. This one right here. So you can see that right here because this is the spreadsheet, and then right down here is the worksheet, the lookup column, which is codes, and then the value that it's fetching from, which is the QR code where that unique field was saved at the back end right here. And then it says, is this code matching this? It'll paste the code right over here. It's a little hard to explain. I'm hoping that hopefully the viewers will be able to kind of follow along everything that's going on here just by observing this. And then it says, is there a value here? Right. So if there is a value, that means it's a valid code. If there's not a value, then it'll mean it's invalid code and they'll get kind of an error. And if it is a value, meaning it's a code found in this spreadsheet right here, then it goes on to the last check. And this check just checks to see, has anybody else used that code? And basically you can go in your codes here and it'll check to see, has the code been used previously? And that just looks like this. So hopefully that kind of made sense, I'm hoping. So this is just the kind of logic part to make sure that the codes, nobody can like use it a bunch of times and that they're valid codes within this spreadsheet right over here. Now I've already used these two prior just to test out the bot. And so that's why I put them in orange, just to show that I've used them. And you can see the codes have been used right here on this spreadsheet as well. Okay, so, you have any questions?
Oh, so from a no-code standpoint, it looks like I could even jump in that sheet and create my own codes if I wanted to. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. If you really wanted to, like, make your own codes, maybe they're not long enough or you want to make them shorter, you can definitely do that. You just have to edit the codes here. And then that would definitely update the system. But you just have to make sure that your QR codes that are linking back match these codes here that are on the spreadsheet.
Right, got it.
Okay, so the next flow that we're going to go into is essentially once we've deemed that it's a good code, it's valid, everything kind of checks out, they go into this flow right here, which is where, based on how many codes they've redeemed, it'll give them a unique message for whatever kind of path they're down. So if it's their first time going through this, it'll go through this kind of first time message. And if they've went in multiple times prior, then they'll get different messages. And if they went in 5 times, which is what we had as the amount of times they would need to get the discount code, they go down that path, which is way down here. So I'll just go down the first time path for now. The first time path, what it does is it inserts a row, which you can see that right here. It'll insert their name, the timestamp, the code, and then how many times they purchased. And then it gives them the message here. And again, all this is all customizable, so you can kind of edit these messages to match
So
your
let
goals.
me just take over here. The first thing that we do here is we establish who they are talking to. We give them an introduction like, hey, we're giving you a warm welcome to the Freestyle family. We acknowledge that being a parent is extremely tough, just to give a little bit of that feel-good feeling. Then we go ahead and talk about the pros of our diapers. 55% more absorbency, safe, healthy, comfy baby because of no chemicals. And then you also play your part for Mother Earth. So the next bit, we pull our influencers that we have worked with and why they think that the brand is good. We are reassuring the customer here that they have made the correct choice. So right after this bit, if Tyler scrolls a little bit towards the right, what we're going to be doing here is we are going to tell them how long a diaper pack lasts, which is approximately a month. We tell them once they've worked through 5 months of diapers, we'll give them a little discount, and you'll get to pick and choose the discount from any product that we have. And finally, we tell them how many months away they are from claiming their product. And here we actually do something a little bit interesting. We try to push them into a Facebook group, and this can be any kind of community that you want. But I know we talked about how important community is in this category. I personally think a Facebook group would be extremely, extremely useful because you can have all those parents together just contributing ideas. Maybe it's you guys want to launch a new product and they can tell you what they think, or maybe they can tell you like, hey, maybe I would like this iteration to be done on X product. And that's essentially why we have that Facebook group.
Yep.
But this is generally the entire concept of the insert card that we have put together. If Tyler scrolls down, then it's just an example of what happens when somebody comes in for the second time. We welcome them, and then we tell them like, hey, if you're not in our Facebook group, feel free to join. If you need help, don't hesitate to hit the button below. But that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you're keeping account of number of times they've effectively used the QR code. So your vision is that the QR code is some sort of step in a welcome or a post-purchase flow where there's some incentive to scan this code after your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth purchases.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like that example I gave earlier in the call with the pizza card, where like they'll give you this kind of card. Every time you buy a box of pizza, you get a sticker. You collect X amount of stickers, and you get the next free pizza. I've had that at one of like kind of the pizza joints that I've bought a lot of pizza from. So that's kind of where some of this inspiration came from.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't draw the direct connection between that analogy and scanning a QR code. So what are incentives that you've found work well for getting your customers to actually do the scanning?
Well,
Is it
some of
just
the incentives that we have found that worked well to do the scanning, they include what we are having here, a discount for X% off. There's also the aspect of it where you can say if you purchase 5 times, you get a mystery gift that really gets people hot and bothered. And then there's also the chance where you enter them into a social contest. So I'm just going to list something really out of the ordinary here. Let's say if they purchase 5 months of diapers, they get raffled to win a family trip to the Bahamas.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So, like, of course, it's an exaggeration, but if you have a prize that people would be willing to work towards, you'll be actually surprised at how much they would stack the deck in their favor.
And then that QR code, sorry if I'm like missing some basic connections, but that QR code is shown to them on, are they scanning it off of a screen, or it's being sent in a purchase confirmation email, which you might receive on your phone? How would you then scan it?
It's actually really smart that you brought that up, because our personal take was it being a solid QR code. But the problem with that is that it might potentially be expensive. So having it on a post-purchase email might actually be the solution.
Yeah, when we thought about this, it would just be a QR code on the packaging or something along those lines. But
so I see. So at fulfillment, I would say put this sticker on for effectively. Well, I guess if it's the same QR code, you could actually design it into the box itself. I see, because it's the same code each time. That makes sense.
No, so the problem is that it's going to be a different code each time because there's a different identifier attached to the back.
Yes.
So it might be costly to do it on a physical sense, which was why I mentioned like, hey, once you talked about the post-purchase email having a QR code, I think that's a fantastic idea. And what might make it work?
Yeah. Then you just have to help folks understand how to scan something on their phone itself right? Which is
Hmm.
do you screenshot it and then, I mean, I know that it seems simple, but I would guess folks would need to have some instruction on how to do that. I love the idea though, and we've always wanted, something like this, the ability to offer, as you say, I like your idea, Sean. Like I would love for it to be something super exciting, like a free trip to
Mhm.
Disneyland or something.
Yeah.
No, we really appreciate your time. Russ, we're just going to wrap up the podcast here. Is there anything at all that you would like to plug?
No, the no, I appreciate the time as well. I think what it would let us know how we can be helpful testers of any kind of new features. I think Freestyle very much wants to be at the forefront of new customer engagements and new, as we said, like surprise and delight offerings. So I think something like this would be really cool.
Right, and guys, it's going to be Freestyle if you guys want to check out the best Pampers out there and a major category disruptor in the next 5 to 10 years.
All right. Thanks a lot.